Rachel. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us for today's Hunterian Friday Focus talk. And as it said on the advert, we're going to be talking about a new discovery, or more accurately, we're going to be talking about a new paper recently published less than 10 days ago. As Rachel mentioned, I'm the Curator of Numismatics here at the Hunterian. I'm responsible for the collection of coins and medals, which is around 100,000 items in total. And our guest today is Professor Paul Pearson, the lead author of the paper that we're going to be discussing. And Paul, I don't know if you just want to give the audience just a brief summary of who you are?
Yeah, I'm a professorial research associate at University College London, and I think Jesper might tell us a little bit about how we sort of got together in this collaboration. And yeah, it was really interesting, good fun, and it's generated a lot of debate and discussion, which is very nice to see so many people interested and engaged.
Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you, Paul. And yes, indeed, we'll be certainly talking a lot more about that. As Rachel mentioned, I'm just going to start sharing my screen and get a PowerPoint going. And Rachel, if you could just let me know, give me a thumbs up if you can see that okay. Excellent, fantastic. So the title on the screen is the title of the new display in the Hunterian Museum. It's on right now, and it relates to the paper that I was just talking about, which is this one, on +1, authenticating coins of the Roman Emperor Sponsian. So this was published at 7 p.m. UK time on Wednesday, the 23rd of November. So it's still very fresh indeed, less than 10 days old. And I took this screenshot earlier this morning, and you can see quite a bit of interest, quite a lot of views already. And I'm sure that number will just keep going up. The purpose of the paper, well, the clue is entirely in the title. And of course, we'll be discussing that a bit more as this talk goes on. But what Paul and I would also like to do is just mention 3 other people who were involved in the paper, Michaela, Jacek, and Liena. And we just want to say a huge thank you to all 3 of them for their extraordinary work and dedication to the project. We're incredibly grateful for all their efforts and the countless hours of work that they put into this. So I think you're out there listening, guys. Thank you very much indeed. Really appreciate it. And I was just talking to Rachel and Paul before this, and thinking that I did a little talk in the Hunterian Museum yesterday, and realizing that there are a couple of beginnings to this story. So we'll start with one beginning about the coins themselves, and then we'll revert to another beginning about halfway through the talk. So here they are, the 4 coins in question. And best at this point to give you just a brief summary of that story. So in 1713, a hoard of Roman gold coins was allegedly found in Transylvania, modern day Romania. And the hoard was then transported to Vienna to the Imperial Habsburg collection, where they were looked at, and 8 pieces were chosen for inclusion in the collection. And then the rest of the hoard were dispersed into the thriving antiquities market of the day. Now, we don't know exactly how many coins made up the original hoard. We've got 4 here at the Hunterian, but around 20 others are known to exist in other institutions. And the 4 coins entered the collection of Dr. William Hunter here, whose holdings founded the Hunterian, back in 1782. So the coins arrived with him just a year before his death. So I like to think that he at least got a chance to look at them and handle them and examine them. Hunter was extraordinarily interested in numismatics. In the last 13 years of his life, he collected over 30,000 coins and medals, spent more on his numismatic collection than any other part of the items that you can see in the museum today and that we hold here. And his numismatic collection was considered so important, it was second only to the French royal cabinet of the day. And he employed innumerable contacts to help build his numismatic holdings, and he preferred to buy collections outright, which leads us nicely onto this next slide, because the coins arrived with Hunter in 1782 as part of a large purchase of the estate of Joseph de France, seen here in this rather wonderful painting. And Paul, could you jump in here, because you were the one that discovered this painting in the National Museum in Stockholm and forwarded the picture on to me. And then you noticed a coin on the table.
Well, yes, I noticed it on the internet. Yes, but that's where I found it while googling Joseph de France, and it's a lovely, as you say, it is a very lovely painting. I think probably around 1740, and I zoomed in on that little thing in his on the table, and it looks like one of the coins that we'd been looking at. Can't be 100% sure, but it does seem to be it. And if it is, then well, people can make up their own mind. But if it is, it does show that he rather valued this particular coin in his large collection, was interested in it. As you see, his wife is rather showing off her pearls in a rather ostentatious manner, and his daughter-in-law is showing the her jewelry box. So they're showing off what they're bling, I suppose you could call it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's thanks to the de France purchase that the Hunterian has, in part, such a fantastic collection of Roman gold. And it's a bit of fun, isn't it? But you and I have had a little debate about this coin, and we managed to get a picture of it just roughly angled to the one in the painting. So, yeah.
Well, the issue was, is it a Corinthian stater or the?
Yes, well, there was.
Yeah, okay,
exactly.
so we don't mind one way or
it's
another.
It's up for debate, and that's fine by us. But I just thought I'd share it here today because it's not something that we've shared before. And as I say, just thought it was a bit of fun, really. Anyway, right, we'll move on. Back to the 4 coins. So the coins move up to Glasgow with the rest of Hunter's bequest in 1807, and they've remained at the Hunterian ever since. And when the hoard was first discovered, when the coins were first discovered, they were considered to be authentic, so-called barbarous issues created beyond the fringes of empire, in imitation of Roman coins. But the real turning point was in 1868, when the numismatist Henry Cohen dismissed the coins as ridiculously imagined modern fakes. So we need at this point to talk about why these coins were considered to be fakes. And again, Paul, feel free to come in as well and as part of the discussion. So first of all, they're cast, not struck. Also, they look strange. They look naive. The designs are a bit weird. What's the word I'm looking for? Not the condition, but the quality of the coins is not the same as those struck at an official mint, for example, in Rome. Looking at some of the inscriptions, especially on the reverses, which, to be fair, aren't pictured in here, but there are plenty of images of them in the paper themselves. Inscriptions are bungled. We've got strange sizes, strange weights, strange shapes. The reverse designs also come, or some of the reverse designs come from Roman Republican designs, so hundreds of years before these coins were potentially created. That's the gist of it, isn't it, Paul? I mean, is there anything I've missed there in the summary?
No, it's very peculiar that you have all these motifs spanning hundreds of years of Roman history, all sort of in one group of coins. I mean, the obverse of the 2 coins on the bottom, for example, looks like it comes from a coin from maybe 100 BC or something like that. But it names an emperor from the 3rd century, so AD. So, you know, what's going on?
Exactly. And then the coin in the top right there of Gordian III, that's what, twice the size of the coin that it's based on? I seem to remember from what we looked
Yeah,
at.
and it's in gold, and I think
Yeah.
that was only in silver. So
Yep. And then, of course, so we've got 3 of the 4 coins we're looking at are of known emperors of the 3rd century. And then, of course, top left, we have this coin of someone called Sponsian. So once Cohen pronounced them as fakes, that narrative stuck for decades, for over a century. And they've remained, as I understand it, relatively forgotten and just classed and dismissed as forgeries. And that's until now, really. That's really one of the main reasons why we embarked on this project and undertook the research and the analysis, and why the paper was published. And Paul, again, any other thoughts as to why the narrative remained that they were fakes until the present day?
well, the only thought I would add is that Henri Cohen, who said this, is a very great figure in numismatic history, the history of coin research. He was the leading person in the 19th century responsible for the standard catalogue. So he casts a long shadow, and he himself actually said that he hadn't seen these. He wasn't working from an actual coin, but rather from a cast that had been taken from one. So he wouldn't have had a chance to see get a good idea of the worn surfaces and maybe some of the features that you can see on an actual coin. So perhaps that has something to do with it as well.
No, absolutely. So let's hold these thoughts for the time being, because I wanted to go back to, as I mentioned earlier, another beginning, which is how Paul got in touch with me in the first place. So Paul, can you tell us about your lockdown project?
Yeah. So I decided to write a book on the 3rd century crisis of Rome, a narrative of it, really because in lockdown for something to do to amuse myself. It was a period of huge disaster for the Roman Empire. It started with a major pandemic that swept through, and all sorts of chaos, economic chaos and military sort of political chaos followed, causing the empire to sort of disintegrate by about 260. It was subsequently put back together again, but it broke into chunks at that time. So it's a really interesting story, I felt.
No, it really is, and it gives a good background to this project as well, and certainly helped me in terms of curating the display. And when you were researching the book, obviously you came across Sponsian, and that was, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you came across a numismatic chronicle note by a Hunterian volunteer called Ian Campbell.
That's right. So I came across the story, the fake emperor based on fake coins who'd been written off. But it was really interesting, and actually I decided it made quite a nice digression in the narrative. And but the thing was, there wasn't any proper, really nice images. There were only grainy black and white photographs of Sponsian coins. So I thought it would grace the book actually and having seen this paper by Ian Campbell, published in the Numismatic Chronicle, who said maybe these coins are worth another look. Actually, I decided to email the Hunterian to see whether it's possible to get a photo. So that email landed in your desk, Jesper.
It certainly did. Yeah, and I just want to mention Ian briefly as well, because it's he was he volunteered here at the Hunterian in the 1990s and did an extraordinary amount of work, especially with our Roman collection, and we're benefiting from that even today. I mean, he's no longer with us, unfortunately, but I just wanted to at least mention him and mention all the work that he'd done. But yes, so these are the coins these are coins. These are the photos that I took for Paul for his book. And then as soon as you got them, Paul, you basically zoomed right in, didn't you? And what was it that you noticed that really caught your attention and started this, what I like to call a snowball that started rolling down a hill quite rapidly?
Yeah, well, it's just their condition. They look very worn. worn down. Actually, you can see, for example, around the emperor's crown, that's very worn looking. And zooming in, you can, amongst the lettering, there's it looks like dirt is ingrained everywhere, and also almost caked on or encrusted. And those features could be faked, but they weren't exactly what I would have expected to see in a fake. So either it was a really sophisticated fake, or maybe there was these coins were not fakes at all. Jesper, you agreed, I think, with that, and we decided to put together a group of specialists from the technical art history group at the University of Glasgow, the Department of Earth Sciences, and just have just subject them to some modern scientific scrutiny.
Yeah, no, exactly. The first of several analysis requests went in, and of course you came up to look at the coins yourself as well. So yes, the team was built, and we started some analysis. So this is, and I'm going to try and pronounce this properly. I'm not skip on any words. So it's a micro Fourier transform infrared spectroscopy machine, and it's actually just a couple of doors along from me here. It's part of the Kelvin Centre for Conservation and Cultural Heritage Research at the University of Glasgow. So again, Paul, would you be able to explain a little bit what what we were looking at through this machine?
Sort of. I think the expert here who did this was Michela Botticelli. So she did the work. But really what it does is it helps analyze the composition of materials on the surface so that you can look very carefully. The technique basically produces a spectrum which allows you to work out what sort of chemical bonds are involved in the compounds on the surface. So it's a way of determining what, for example, something that looks like dirt, we're able to zoom in and try to establish, is that really soil, or is it paint or something else? And the answer with this and another analytical technique that we used with the electron microscope, which is called X-ray dispersive analysis, that also gives us the elemental composition. Yeah. And the bottom, well, all the data are in the paper. There's actually a lot of technical reports. That's it. That's the electron microscope, which also produces ultra high resolution images where you can see features down to thousands of millimeters. Yeah, I mean, it helps us determine whether it was really soil or whether it was paint or it had been baked on or whatever. So all the analysis is available and subject, and people can have a look at that.
Yeah, no, it's an incredible machine. It really is. So we should move on to just a couple of pictures of the analysis. So this is looking at a microscopic part of the sponsian coin itself. And we were looking at wear patterns and scratches, weren't we? I mean, we mentioned the metal analysis. I mean, the coins are made of gold. We determined that they were been made in different batches. And so, yes, would you be able to just explain a little bit more, Paul, about what the scratches tell us?
Yeah, I think again, this is we have to turn to our colleague Jacek Olenda, who did a lot of this more detailed analysis. But really, we compared this pattern, which you can see is covered in scratches, with genuine Roman coins that we know were in circulation, and in all respects that looks similar. I mean, in fact, it would be impossible for me to tell you which coin these come from, because you get scratches in all orientations. They sort of overlap. There's many of them there, and when you get them under the electron microscope, they go down to the very, very tiniest lengths and width scale you can see even with an electron microscope. So in all respects, the wear pattern looks like a genuine wear pattern. But we do know that sophisticated forgers had various methods for aging their coins, so that's not in itself, I think, proof of authenticity.
Yeah.
But more to the point, as you can see, actually, this is quite a nice image, yes, because it shows quite nicely those blobs, those sort of grayish blobs, which you can see in the middle and towards the bottom and on the top left, brownish. They are that is silica, and you can see it overlies the scratches. And that silica is a cemented product of, is what you get in soils when, when silica gets remobilized, it gets dissolved and reprecipitated. The gold surface is unreactive, but it basically nucleates on the surface, and it cakes on in that manner. And again, the genuine coins we looked at are exactly the same in that respect. So this is evidence of burial, that these coins have been buried. And not only that, they've been buried for a very substantial period of time, because this is not something that would happen if you just left it in the garden for a year or whatever. No. It's just, these are really in very much the same condition as coins we know have been buried in underground for a long period of time, since Roman times.
Well, there's another picture here that we used in the museum display to talk about earthen deposits.
Yeah, and so you can see there that stuff we analysed consists of clay minerals and quartz and other things that you find in soil, also oxalates, organic compounds. And on top of it is a sort of whitish sheen. And when we zoomed in on that, that proved to be a very, very fine layer of absolutely minuscule sulfate crystals, gypsum and others. And those are the sorts of minerals that you get when you expose something that's been buried underground to air. There's an oxidation reaction, and it's quite distinctive. And we compared that one again with the real ones, with known genuine coins, I should say, and the appearances are exactly the same. So these, it's quite technical, and there's lots of discussion, but the bottom line is our work established to our satisfaction beyond any reasonable doubt that these coins have been buried for a very long period of time before they appeared in 1713, because they haven't been, they've been in museum drawers since, and that burial happened after they acquired their highly worn surfaces.
So, summary, after all this analysis and the results, we feel that we have authenticated the coins as being products of antiquity and not fakes. And then, of course, it begs the question, well, if we think the coins are real, then who is this person on the Sponsian coin? He's only known through the coins. That's the thing. So based on the evidence, the analysis evidence that we gathered, we came up with our own hypothesis as to who Sponsian might have been and why his portrait appears on the coin. So in order to talk a little bit about that, oops, sorry, there's a close-up of Sponsian. And actually, you can see in this photo just how pitted the surface is. And yeah, it's quite extraordinary, actually. Anyway, sorry, moving swiftly on, because I know, Rachel, that we've got time on our, maybe not on our side as well. So yes, this map that was produced by our designer, Chris McClure, here at the Hunterian for the display will help explain our hypothesis of who Sponsian might have been. And Paul, if I can just turn to you really briefly, because as I said, your book gives an excellent background to this period historically. So we're looking at modern day Transylvania in Romania, and hopefully people can see the border of Roman Dacia, as it was then known, up until 260. And the dotted line is really our guess, I suppose, as to the border of territory that might have been controlled by Sponsian. And I mean, this is based on various conversations that we'd had with a variety of people. But the point being that we think that Sponsian might have been perhaps a military commander who was in charge of a cut-off outpost of the Roman Empire for around a decade before the territory was then relieved and evacuated. That's anything to add, Paul?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that, I mean, it's a hypothesis, okay? So, I mean, it's our best idea. And what the thing we're most trying to explain and most puzzled us, and we talked about a lot, is how come these coins are so deeply worn? They would appear to have been in circulation. so in what economic environment did that happen? It must have been presumably for a substantial amount of time. And there must have been lots of these coins, presumably circulating, not just the ones that were found in 1713. This period when history tells us that this province was lost to Rome in the 260s, but then was later evacuated with its soldiers and population in the 270s, provides us with a time when maybe these coins could have been made. And it makes sense that with no money coming in, the local legions might have turned to their gold mines, which is really the reason why they were there, to make high value money, which could have been then traded in that area. And then when the evacuation happened, possibly it was all recalled and melted down because it was unofficial, and maybe that's why they're so rare. It's a hypothesis. It covers all the facts, including the really puzzling ones, but we're very happy to debate this with whoever may have other insights that we perhaps haven't considered.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are Sponsian coins in other museums. So this one is held at the Brukenthal National Museum in Sibiu, Romania. And Paul, you saw this about a month ago now?
Yeah, I suppose, yeah, 6 weeks maybe. When we had our, well, we sent our copies of our manuscript to all the museums that have these coins. The Brukenthal Museum invited me to go and give a talk, and we studied this coin. And it shows, I mean, it also had been thought of as a fake like all the others. But we looked at this coin in detail. We've had it under the microscope, and yes, it looks exactly in the same condition as the Glasgow one. So we're looking forward to understanding more about this coin and collaborating with our people in Romania to take this forward.
Yeah, very much so. No, that's going to be really interesting.
It's a lovely museum, by the way, just like the Hunterian is an absolutely lovely day out. I mean, they're both fantastic places to visit.
Well, hopefully we'll get a chance to visit, maybe next year. Just want to say, again, just reiterate, the display is on at the Hunterian Museum right now. Entry's free, and the museum's open Tuesday to Sunday, 10 till 5. But please, please, please check the Hunterian website for opening hours, especially over the festive break. And then, well, that's obviously the link to the PLOS ONE journal article. But if you just type PLOS ONE Sponsian into Google, you'll get it straight away. So that's the end of this very short WE discussion and Friday Focus talk. I'm just going to stop sharing the screen and come back out of it. And just to say, thanks very much indeed, Paul and Rachel and everybody else who's been involved today. Personally, I've been absolutely staggered by the aftermath of the publication and the worldwide response to it. I mean, Paul, you've been rushed off your feet with all kinds of requests and interviews, and it's generated, as you said, an extraordinary amount of debate, and we've had all kinds of feedback. And again, really just sort of one of my personal aims in this project was just to hope that the paper will spur other institutions who hold coins from the hoard to maybe look at them afresh and maybe test them and research them as well. And I'm sure historians will want to dig ever deeper into this period of history and see what more they can find out, if anything, about this person called Sponsian who features on a gold coin.